Hello, hello. This is Yuri of Moving Sales Professionals and Let's Talk Moving podcast. And with me again, I have James Hatfield with LiveSwitch. So thank you very much for joining me, James. Good to
Oh,
have
thanks
you
for
again.
having me. Oh, it's been a minute since we last got together, but I'm glad to get together again. I'm excited.
Yeah. We try to get I try to get you on somewhere in the interim, and I think you lost your voice or something, and you couldn't be on.
But here we are. Voice is back. I think it's crispy and clear, and I got a new microphone too. So hopefully
Awesome, awesome.
we're
So how you
rocking.
feeling? How's business coming?
Oh, gangbusters. It's been great. Ever since we last spoke, I mean, our stuff's now under the hood of almost every platform in the moving space. We've picked up hundreds and hundreds more customers and added a bunch more features as one does in technology, right? Always moving and shaking and adding, and it's been good.
All right, and just to remind you guys, so James Hatfield is, if I remember correctly, owner and CEO of LiveSwitch, which they provide the video platform for to be able to record for the customer to potentially be able to record what they have going on around them, what they're moving, etc. And the Sierra software, if I remember correctly, and you can tell me if I'm wrong somewhere, but it analyzes basically of whatever's going on around them and allows the customer to basically be involved in the process of getting an accurate estimate based on what the software sees. And you could do it through the cell phone, be able to focus on everything around you and calculate whatever the measurables are, right?
Yep, you're doing great. Yep, on the front end, on the virtual estimate side, send a text. The potential prospect taps the text, and boom, you're instantly connect, and it's all tuned up for third party assistance. Walk around the house, walk around the office, do your bidding, and you can win business that way, or at least make sure you're getting rid of those tire kickers, right? So people that they have no business calling your business, like they're just gonna get their friends in a pizza box, right? But
Right.
those are guys we don't want to drive out and see. But if they've
No.
got money and they're ready to rock, let's get the money now. Or if we still need to drive out and do the bid, let's do it.
And now for a word from our sponsors. If you're a moving business owner, you may have already heard of Moversville, an email marketing service that helps moving companies increase, repeat, and referral business. But have you heard of Moversville Connect? Moversville Connect is an incredible resource for all things moving. They feature an array of vendors and services that cater specifically to the moving industry. You can find companies that provide moving software, moving sales services, marketing services, moving equipment providers, and much, much more. Visit moversville.com today to learn more.
No, absolutely. I think it's a great if it's a great software. So now just to kind of to take back for a little bit, like obviously we deal with sales all the time here, being a call center, dealing with the moving industry. But if you are a company that's actually in our backyard or where any of our sales are per base, we have no problem going out and doing an on-site estimate in person as well, which is something I actually just did. When was this? Yesterday, Thursday? Yeah, Thursday. I just did one yesterday morning, and then 2 hours later, close.
It's perfect. I mean, it's a 1-2 punch, right? You're not
Yeah.
gonna not go out on site at times. But if you have a smaller job or a job that's maybe a good drive away, you may want to try that virtual estimate, or if it's an after hours bid, maybe someone's working in the office and they can't get home till late. It gives you that flexibility, gives that customer flexibility on the front end. Also, for your team during the operational side, we got a lot of guys that do the pre-walk around. They'll do before and afters, making sure they're covering their butts. Because when you move stuff, you see scratches you didn't see when it's in new light. When they like to blame the moving company, and then
Of
that never
course.
was your fault. But we don't want to be nonprofit. We want to reduce those claims. And this kind of stuff easy to do. I mean,
Right,
easy to
right.
do.
Plus, you always have that by having that video, or whether you have a video or whether you have a manual inventory that you just did over the phone. Guys, just speaking to you from the sales side of it, it's not always your salesperson's fault if you showed up on the day of the move and there's more stuff. People lie, people say whatever they need to say because they think they're going to get a better estimate. And then on the day of the move, there's so much more stuff and they think they're going to get a break. Or they're going to just blame the salesperson and say, hey, I told them everything and they told me packing was included, right? So tell me if you heard that one before, right? But ultimately, the inventory, whether it's a virtual through LiveSwitch or whether it's something that we're doing over the phone or whatever the case may be, inventory exists for a reason. It's there to protect us as salespeople. It's there to protect your moving company if you come on the day of the move and the customer has more stuff that's not on that video or that's not on the inventory because ultimately, yes, as sales reps, we want to be as accurate as possible. But at the same time, the customer needs to be reviewing the stuff as much as possible as well. Because if they're not reviewing it, they have to be reliable to some degree as well. Because when they sign off on the paperwork, they're also signing off saying that, hey, the inventory that was listed here, that's provided here, is accurate. So by signing the paperwork, you're saying, yes, that's correct. You have an opportunity at that point to not sign it, call us, call the moving company and say, hey, that's not correct. I have this much more. To me, that's part of the checks and balances when it comes to making sure we're providing accurate information is you as the person that's moving need to be able to say, hey, this is correct or hey, this is not correct. Right. So that way, by the time we get to the move, if you did not give us inventory or that inventory was not accurate, you should have said something and not held your peace. Right.
That's right. And, as much as you're trying to do your cube sheets and document what written, nothing's like having photos and videos. That really holds everybody accountable. Like, look, and you could literally have been on site doing your on site, walkthrough and doing your estimate there or over the phone. I mean, the customer is literally holding their own phone. You've got everything right there. So if they're disputing, or the other great thing, since it's a communications platform, is you can send it to your team, and while they're driving out, they can watch that video and they know what they're supposed to move. They've seen it all. Like, you've armed your team, and your operational team can keep your sales team accountable. Like Yuri's saying, like, hey guys, you're selling world peace over here. Stop doing that. Like, this is what we're able to do. Here's the good quote. And it keeps everyone on the same page, and it protects your team and it protects your customer if something goes wrong, right? If the team does mess up, now you've got everything documented and you're holding your own team accountable. You're getting eyes on your entire business. Like, it'll change everything for you.
Does your company need more creative marketing and ad campaigns to improve traffic and organic leads? Well, Moving Sales Professionals has a solution for you. We have partnered with social media marketing agency that has over 300 million views on their ads and videos across social media, and they have generated over $35 million for their clients over the last 10 years alone. Their services include content creation, social media ads, pay-per-click campaigns, website and funnel development, Google Ads, email marketing campaigns, lead generation, and much, much more. For limited time only, they have discounted rates for their services. Sign up for a free consultation call with us via our Calendly link on our website or below this video.
But the main thing is this, you as the owner of a moving company, your sales reps or your estimators that go out in the field, you got to have their back too. At the end of the day, you got to have their back too, and you got to allow them to, if they took an inventory, you got to have them back. So the customer has to at least have some responsibility, to say, hey, this is accurate, or hey, this is not accurate. Because ultimately that's what puts us in trouble is that when we're not trusting our people. And then now we're going and we're giving left and right discounts to customers. Meanwhile, our reps did what they're supposed to. So you
That's
gotta
right.
you gotta give your people the benefit of a doubt too, because that's what puts us sometimes in a difficult position when we don't.
That's right. And then it all comes down after that, the speed to lead, right? When those quotes are coming in, when that phone call comes in, hey, what's preventing them from going down the list on the Google, like, or on Yelp or wherever they're going? When that phone call comes in, you got to answer that. So Yuri and his team, or whether you got your own team there or a combination of the two, you want to answer that phone and get raced to the face. I always go around when I'm speaking on stages, I ask business owners, hey, is your AI agent your number one salesperson? Raise your hand. Nobody has ever raised their hand, and I'm like, how is blind bidding going? When you just talk to someone on the phone, very inaccurate. But when you can put your eyes on the situation, whether your boots on the ground or whether you're right there in your office and you're looking at everything, now you're closing business, because faces, people close deals. I'm all for AI, but right now, that is not the case. And you can have your agent sitting anywhere. We've got a guy in Seattle, Eco Movers, Grant. He has all of his staff even overseas. His sales managers in Poland. So, like, they know the value of speed to lead. They've got so many people. When that call comes in, I mean, I'd hate it if you're in the Seattle area and you have to fight against Grant. Wow. Once you get it dialed in and you have your sales team on, that's your first line of defense for making sure you're converting to cash. And I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, Yuri.
Right. No, of course. Although I must say, I'm to the point. I'm pretty accurate most of the time. Say probably I wouldn't say 100% of the time. I don't think anybody's that accurate, but I'd like to say that I'm somewhere in the high 90s in terms of inventory. But once again, I can only be as accurate as information I'm provided with. And if you hear me do a call, I am digging. I am digging for information. I'm trying to get as much information about their move as possible. I'm digging, I'm digging, I'm digging, I'm asking, I'm digging, right? Because if I don't dig, then I'm not doing my job, right? But then at the same time, I can also do a video call. I can also send an estimator out to do an on-site. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, we want to make sure we do it the right way. Unfortunately, in the moving industry, we have too many companies out there that say to their salespeople, "Hey, this is the minimum that you can quote, and then the rest, if there's issues on the day of the move, we'll deal with that." I don't, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't want to deal with those type of movers because that's like, I want to be able to, as a sales rep, I want to be able to sleep at night. I
Yeah,
want to be able to I call, even though technically speaking, the people that are moving are not my customers. They're customers of my customers, right? They're customers of the moving companies that we're doing the booking for, right? But ultimately, um, I want to be accurate as I possibly can be. So LiveSwitch gives you that opportunity, of course, by being able to provide the potential customers, the people that are looking to move, with another option where they can show as little as they much or as much as they want. But once again, if they show as little or as much as they want, then the quote is going to be based on that information.
that's right. And that's why when you're on the other end doing it live, like Yuri said, you're digging and digging and digging. You're like, all right, go open the cabinets, go to this wall. What about the attic? Have we looked in the basement? What about the garage? Like you're going all over the place and you're staying connected with them and everything's staying recorded. So it keeps, hey, is there anything you haven't shown me? Right? Because this is your bid. And since Yuri is the first line of defense when someone comes in, he's setting the stage for customer experience. If he doesn't do
Absolutely.
this well enough, he's not going to be doing this much longer. That's why he takes pride in the quote, not just for the customer, but for the team he's selling for, because he is teeing them up for a solid move. And when customers see that and he explains it, they get a good quote. They know the expectations of the move, and he's walking them through the process. The move process will be cleaner. And this is one of the hardest things, as you guys know, that people go through. Moving is brutal on families. It's a huge life event. So the smoother you can make it, the more pro you can be, that's just going to lead to your brand and who you are and what you represent.
Right. And once again, that comes back to something that we always talk about. You want to be the brand. You want to care about your brand. And you also want to make sure that you have good quality people working for you. And you want to make sure that you have a team that's there caring about your brand because that's what we represent every day. We're talking to your clients.
That's right. And that's just the front end. Right now, we're talking about
Front
operational.
end.
What about at the very end? Getting those customer testimonials, video customer testimonials. Google
Yeah.
now looks for real video and real photos. If you're using stock photos or stock on your website or on your Google or Yelp, you're going to get dinged for that. But if you have good video and solid pictures, you actually get organically raised up, and those stars matter. And you've got to ask 7 times for people. And there's software out there that can help you out. But those customer testimonials are liquid gold for you and your business and your Google store and your Yelp. So these are the things you just got to start putting in your practice, incentivizing your guys to get that when they're on property, and then making it an experience and the little touches. I've talked to these moving companies that are just premium class acts. They'll even do little things like find out what the owners like or who they're moving, and they'll find out and they'll give them a dinner discount. Hey, you just moved today. Here's a certificate for dinner on us. You just moved. So little touches like that along the way, thinking about the customer experience. It's not just booking that job, but it's also conducting the job. And I think we're so focused on winning, sometimes we forget about just the overall delivery of it as well. And it all connects.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it is about personal touch, and that's what also makes your moving company or your business in general different from your competition is by being personal, being there for your clients, and I think that that's extremely important. That's certainly something that I live by, and everybody that's my client or that's ever talked to me from that standpoint knows that that's what I'm about.
That's right. And I mean, some of these companies are going, and if you're not doing this, the more I hear people, I'm like, I can't believe it. Like they'll have their team show up with speakers, like Bluetooth speakers, and find out what music that family likes. If they have kids, they'll
That's
even have
neat.
somebody come by and give candy for the kids. Some of these folks even have mascots that'll come by. I'm like, I can't believe what they're doing, but they're trying to make, fill in the blank, your favorite restaurant.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A is here in the South, but like they're giving that experience to people and they're really trying to just stuff I've never heard of before. And I'm like, wow, I would not want to compete with them. But I think for some of us, we just gloss over it. We're like, let me get my guys, let me get the sale, let me move the stuff, and let's go on to the next one. But you got to start thinking about customer experience.
I'll be honest with you. Recently, I booked this local job that was roughly about $8,500. You know who I beat out personally? Now, I never went to the customer's house. I never did an on-site estimate, right? Oh, for that specific customer. We did everything over the phone. But they had two companies that physically came out, JK and Gentle Giant. They both came to the customer's house. They both provided them on the quote based on what they saw. And my numbers have never been to that customer house. Were on the money. And you know what? Besides that, the numbers, you know what else? What really got me this job? It wasn't the numbers. What really got me this job was the personal conversation that I had with this customer. I knew that they were planning to go to Spain on vacation. They had a kid that was that plays basketball. So my kid plays hockey. So we talking about kids and playing youth sports. We were talking about Spain. I go to Mexico a couple of times a year, so I speak a little bit of Spanish. So we were talking about that. We were talking about language. We were talking about personal things. And you know what? She came back from Spain. I was her choice.
And that's a beautiful thing, right? That is sales 101, really making that. And as well as, you want to put your best sales. Don't you want Yuriy on every sales call? So how do you get Yuriy on every sales call, right?
Unfortunately, I can't clone myself. I tried. I
Yeah,
wish
but
I could.
see,
I wish I could.
well, that's the thing. But now with some of these tools and how you won that one over the phone where two people went on property, right?
Yeah,
So you're also kind of proving the point that
yeah.
there's that human element, that connection piece. But now
It's
I want
all about the
Yuriy.
human. It's all about the human element.
Yeah, and I want to find efficient ways to get Yuriy on every sales call. So I've got to arm him with the tools that are going to do the front end, do the follow up, close that deal, and it's $8,500 deal, and it's competitive bidding. Like you've
Yeah,
got to
absolutely.
separate
And
yourself.
those, yeah, you got and those conversations, that personal touch is so important. That's why us as salespeople, we got to be great listeners because sometimes that one little thing that a customer says, and especially if they repeat it multiple times, you know that that's their important to them. So you got to harp on that, whether you can or can't actually connect, but you know what that's what it is. Make it
That's
sound
right.
like you can. Make it sound like that's the experience that you have. That's that. I mean, of course, that's speaking from a sales point perspective, right? But I mean, ultimately, it's you want to make the connection. It's about that connection because ultimately, when it comes to sales specifically, they choose the sales rep.
We're talking about a couple $100 they're going with who they trust, right? And if Yuri's recording everything, now he needs to make himself redundant in a good way where he's got to show his team, hey, this is the gold standard of selling. This is how we sell. And you need to be documenting your process. For some of you guys, you might not even think about this, but when eventually, if you want to exit and you want to sell your business, the businesses that are well documented, they've got their 3 years of P&Ls, 3 years tax returns all buttoned up, and they've got everything there with their team that imagine if you're a key man, right? Like, so what Yuriy has to do is make sure he's making himself redundant. So when it is time to sell the company, not that he's selling his company, I'm just saying
Nope,
if you're selling your company,
not
you're making sure that you have documented these processes, you've made yourself redundant, and you're going to make that much more on the other end when you go to sell as well. But also having these processes in place, putting them in software like Tranual, where your guys are coming in and they're watching gold standard Yuriy in this case. Now you're having sales guys that have replicated and you can scale on the back of that. So we forget sometimes to do our documentation of process, but this is an easy way to do it.
right. And LiveSwitch can do it for you. But we can continue talking about this over and over. Thank you very much, James, for joining me. And like I always say, the world moves on its own, so let the professionals move yours for you. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll talk again soon.